Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news throughout the day I come across, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hope all of you guys are having a wonderful day. Today is June 30th. It is also Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope all you guys had a wonderful weekend and hope all you guys have a wonderful week. I took this weekend off, and it was pretty solid overall. Played some Pokemon Go, hung out with some friends. It was pretty nice. But hopefully, all you guys are doing well, and hopefully, all you guys enjoyed your weekends. That being said, let's get right into the news recap. Episode 90. We've made it pretty far. Moving right on into the Trump administration segment today, the first thing we have to talk about is Trump says he has a TikTok buyer. Trump claims he has a buyer for TikTok. In a Fox News interview, Trump said he had a group of very wealthy people willing to acquire the app, and we would hear about it in 2 weeks. The sale would need approval from the Chinese government, and Trump claims they will probably do it. The previous deal failed in April due to the tariffs between the US and China, and it is not clear if this will be the same buyer or a completely new one. I doubt this as much as I want the TikTok issue to be over with. I doubt it will be. Every time Trump claims to be close on a deal with anything, it, fails or falls through. And I wouldn't be shocked if that remains the same here. We'll see in 2 weeks, I guess, but I highly doubt it. As much as I don't want the TikTok ban to fail, for one, that's my only source of income right now. But, for two, it's been a great way for me to develop my platform. I really just don't see a deal happening anytime soon, truthfully. Moving on, Kristi Noem secretly took a cut from her political donations. While serving as governor of South Dakota, Noem received $80,000 from an anonymous donor but failed to declare it. Noem received funds from the nonprofit American Resolve Policy Fund, a dark money group which is not required to disclose names of their donors. According to ProPublica, Noem failed to disclose the payment when detailing her assets to an income source from 2023, which is significant because it boosted her government wage of $113,000 $130,000 per year. My apologies. American Resolve made $1.1 million in 2023, according to tax filing, and described the $80,000 payment for fundraising, claiming Noem herself had brought in thousands. Documents shared by American Resolve said Noem's company 10% of a 10% total raised 800,000 that year. Holy English, my bad, guys. Anyways, the corruption is insane. Honestly, I really wonder why she didn't report this. American Resolve seemingly, had a good story, and politicians get away with stuff like this all the time, so she likely would have gotten away with it. Maybe I'm missing something here, but it really just doesn't add up on why, she didn't say anything about it. Granted, she'll probably get away with it at the end of the day, but I doubt she would have gotten in any trouble at all for reporting on this, or putting it in her what is it her I'm blanking on the word now, and I just said it, so I'm trying to find it in the article. Anyways, she didn't claim that she received the money, which is interesting to me. It really just something doesn't add up there. I feel like she would have been fine, if she did say something about it. So maybe I'm wrong. If anyone knows anything or is more detailed on that subject, let me know. Anyways, Trump wants to Trump wants to strip citizenship from many, pushing for denaturalization. The Justice Department is aggressively prioritizing efforts to strip some Americans of citizenship. Department leadership is directing its attorneys to prioritize denaturalization cases involving naturalized citizens who commit certain crimes. They're also giving district attorneys a wider discretion when to pursue this tactic, according to a memo from June 11th. This is aimed at people who were not born in the United States, and this has already happened to one person on June 13th, when a judge revoked the citizenship of Elliot Duke, an American military veteran originally from the UK, who was convicted of distributing child pornography, something they had admitted to doing before becoming a US citizen. This is crazy. That really means that anyone who wasn't from the US originally can lose their citizenship for any crime. It's not really descriptive on what kind of crimes they mean. Which is insane. This government is deporting people, and as if that was bad enough, they're willing to strip citizenship from anyone who wasn't born in the United States. That's crazy. This country was built off immigrants, and yet we have decided to get rid of them. It is a complete 180 of everything this country stands for, just like the rest of this administration. It is actively a problem that needs to be solved, just like this dog who will not stop barking. Holy. But really, it is a problem. It it is. We have completely flip flopped from the beliefs of this country within the entire Trump administration. Not only is it disgusting, but it is an issue. It has brought us into a constitutional crisis. It has created attacks on the American people, and time and time and time and time again, it has proven to be a problem. Trump needs to be removed. This entire administration needs to be removed. And I'm going to keep saying that because it's the truth. They are continuously creating problems that do not help the American people. In other news, Trump has called out AT&T after his call with faith leaders didn't work. In two posts on True Social, Trump has called out AT&T for internet connection issues during his meeting with faith leaders. In his post, he wrote, "I'm doing a major conference call with faith leaders from all over the country, and AT&T is totally unable to make their equipment work properly. This is the second time it's happened. If the boss of AT&T, whoever that may be, could get involved, it would be good. There's tens of thousands of people on the line." He went on to write in another post, "I apologize for the wait on the Faith Leaders Conference call. AT&T ought to get its act together. Please pass along the word to tens of thousands of people who are there. We may have to reschedule the call, but we'll use another carrier for the next time. AT&T obviously doesn't know what they're doing." AT&T is out there doing God's work outside of that terrible joke. Anyhow, seeing Trump struggle with anything is always a joy, to me at least. I don't know much of the reasoning behind this meeting. Not really educated on, the meetings for presidents within religious leaders. But I'm sure it's just likely another presidential duty, as, Trump still does have to do presidential duties on the side of ruining the entire country. Of course, I do know a little bit about religious stuff. I know a lot more about religious history and what are in the religious texts rather than the current state of religions, to say the least. But I'm sure that presidents do obviously meet frequently with religious leaders, so I'm sure this was likely just another one of those presidential duties. But AT&T is doing the right work out there, truly. Power to AT&T for helping the people. That's a stupid joke, but. Anyways, moving on to the budget bill vote segments, multiple Republican senators will not vote on the budget. If Republicans want their budget passed, they need to convince multiple Republicans who said they or haven't said they will vote for final passage. Three conservatives, Senators Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, and Mike Lee, are pressing for an amendment that would cut an additional $313 billion in Medicaid spending. Two of them said they won't vote if the final they might not vote if the final passage passes. Multiple Republicans have also pushed back against the Medicaid cuts. Josh Hawley being one of the Republicans who told reporters, "I think this effort to cut Medicaid funding is a mistake." He also called out Republicans, saying, "Frankly, my party needs to do some soul searching. If you want to be a working class party, you've got to deliver to working class people. You cannot take away health care from the working people." Two moderates, Melissa Murkowski and Susan Collins, also said they do not, or also have not said if they plan to vote or not. This bill better not pass. Unfortunately, I have a gut feeling it will. It will 100% set this country back financially for decades. Not only will that pain come, not only will it be a pain to come back from, but even just a year of that budget will harm the country immensely. Um, it's going to be a struggle to rebuild. Paying off that debt, paying off so much for the American people, and trying to fix our economy after the damage that this budget can do. Trump claims that it's going to help us in the long term, but it's not. It's really not. It's going to harm the American people. It's going to take away from programs and so much more. Europe has debt too, but at least that debt is actually focused into benefiting the American people. This budget bill not only adds to the debt, but it pulls away from the American people. It is disgusting how much damage we are currently doing to our own people just because the president doesn't give two shits about them. In other news, an Alaskan senator cut a background deal, or backroom deal, if you will. Senator Lisa Murkowski cut a deal with Republicans in order for them to get her vote for the big, beautiful bill. The deal allows Alaska to continue to get assistance while the rest of the states have programs cut. The bill would devastate Alaska, making it harder for residents to live there. But provisions say that, but said provisions that would support both Alaska and Hawaii have been ruled to violate the Senate's Bayard rule. Murkowski now has to decide between her party and her people. Crazy that rather than voting against a bill that would negatively impact your people and the rest of the country, you make a deal so your state isn't affected. Why wouldn't you just vote against the bill at that point? And she better. If she doesn't, I don't think we'll be seeing her in the next cycle, to say the least. Because not only is that bill going to make it harder for Alaskans who largely rely on government subsidies and so much more from the government, by the way, to not only keep their economy running, but keep the state running as a whole. This bill would destroy it. It would honestly make it nearly impossible for people in Alaska to be able to afford to live, to be able to get groceries, and so much more. What does she really think she's doing? Truly, why wouldn't she just vote against the bill? It's stupid. It really is. Truly, she does not care about the American people. If she would rather, create a backroom deal for her own people and leave the rest of Americans out to dry. In other news, the Senate bill, or budget bill, or yeah, whatever, would make ICE the largest police force. Trump's budget bill would transform ICE from an agency that can barely afford to support itself into the largest police force in the country. It would have a bigger budget than the entire Bureau of Prisons, as the bill allocated $45 billion for detention, $15 billion for deportation operations, plus it adds billions more for surveillance, transportation, and private contracts, ending at more than 5 times the amount the Bureau of Prisons gets annually. This is insane. Giving ICE more than our current prison system is crazy. Imagine what we could do if we actually gave a shit about the people in our country. You're telling me we can cut billions in Medicaid for ICE, but we can't build a better education system for our children. It's bullshit. It really is. All these tax dollars could be going back into the people, but no! Trump needs his own personal Gestapo. Come on, bro. All of this national debt, yet we can't do shit. And we can't do shit for the people who actually pay their taxes, for the people who actually work in the United States of America. We are focusing on the people who don't do shit, whose corporations don't pay their taxes, and so much more. It's bullshit. It really is. The people who actually do the work in America are not getting any help. We are being left out here to dry. And not only can half the country not see that, which is bizarre, but it's stupid. It is stupid that we as the American people have to sit by and watch these things be taken away from us. It is stupid that we as the American people have to sit by and watch an agency get billions while children struggle to learn in classrooms, while people struggle to eat, while people struggle to find a job, while people struggle to buy a home. Bottom line, it is hard to live in the United States right now. if you are in the middle class. Yet we are giving ICE billions and billions of dollars just to deport people who are trying to make ends meet in this country. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Moving on into a segment on ICE itself, as why not talk about the shitty agency while we can? The first thing we have is a news report shows abuses in the U.S. immigration system. A new Wired report shares extreme abuses of human rights violations within the U.S. immigration system. A nurse at the Aurora ICE Processing Center near Denver called 911 after a woman who had been pregnant in custody for 4 months arrived at the facility's medical unit bleeding and in pain. During the call, the nurse hesitated to answer questions from the dispatcher, but said she had arrived 3 days before. The dispatcher asked if the baby was okay, and the nurse said, "We don't have equipment to do that." But this isn't the only one. Wired has been investigating 911 calls from 10 of the largest immigration centers and found that medical incidents are rising. Since January, nearly 400 emergency calls have been made. Nearly 50 calls have been related to cardiac episodes, 26 reference seizures, and 17 reported head injuries. Many calls describe suicide attempts and even sexual abuses, including one case being logged as a staff on a detainee. The conditions in these facilities are disgusting. Granted, that was somewhat common knowledge, but this is insane. If you haven't read the Wired report, I strongly recommend you do. There is so much in it that not even I was able to report on because it's so much. ICE needs to be ended as a program. I mean, these are massive problems. If you have people trying to kill themselves in your facilities, you have an issue. If you have agents sexually abusing detainees and still remaining on the job, you have an issue. That is insane. A staff came on to a detainee who has been put through horrid conditions, likely had limited access to food, had limited access to water, had limited access to a clean pair of clothes or toiletries or the opportunity to take a shower. Yet you have these agents coming on to them? And yet that agent still has a job? Where are we in this country? Not only are these racist cops, but they're sexual abuser cops and so much more. They're homophobic. They're against the American people. This is Trump's Gestapo, literally attacking people who have done essentially nothing wrong. Yet we are allowing agents to just do as they please to these individuals. Yet we are putting them in conditions that people feel like killing themselves. Where in any world is that okay? Where in any world does that not go against any human rights violations? I mean, come on, guys. Where are we? Where are our heads at? Fuck ICE, and fuck Donald Trump too. I mean, truly. In other news, Florida is moving forward with the alligator Alcatraz. The state of Florida has not surprisingly decided to go through with the $450 million a year alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades. The facility has received heavy pushback in the legal challenge, but it is backed by Governor Ron DeSantis and State Attorney General James Utenmeyer. DeSantis said on Fox and Friends, "This is going to be a grocer multiplier for and we are really happy to be working with the federal government to satisfy President Trump's mandate." Not only is this expensive, but it is still likely going to have human rights violations just like every other facility. I'm not even shocked. Florida is just essentially Trump's backyard. It really is. Anything that Trump wants to do happens in Florida. But, this is gross. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. It's horrible for the people. It's going to commit human rights violations and so much more. ICE needs to be ended. So did the deportation. So does the Trump administration and so much more. There is blatant proof that this is not only killing people, but it is bad for so much more. Yet we are allowing it to continue. That is insane. In other news, a Canadian citizen has died in ICE custody. The Canadian government is demanding answers from the U.S. following the death of a Canadian citizen in ICE custody. Johnny Novellia, 49, died on Monday while in custody in Miami, pending removal proceedings. He had been in the U.S. for nearly 40 years. Anita Nod, Canada's Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs, sent a post on Twitter. Today, the government of Canada was notified of the death of Canadian citizen while in custody of the United States. Canadian consular offices are urgently seeking for more information from U.S. officials. I offer my sincerest condolences to the family. There have been 13 known deaths in ICE custody since January. Novalio wasn't the most innocent man, as last year he was convicted for trafficking drugs and a few more crimes. But the amount of deaths in ICE custody still need to be talked about. Even if he wasn't, a saint or, the most innocent man, 13 deaths since January for people who were likely supposed to make it out of the United States is something to be talked about. It's something that we need to discuss. We all know the conditions are bad, and it needs to be addressed. If it isn't, ICE needs to be ended. ICE isn't going anywhere right now, and that's what we've seen with this budget bill. Yet, we're allowing these facilities to have terrible conditions. I mean, at the very least, we can offer people clothes, a change of, clothes, food, so much more. We aren't even doing the bare minimum for people. We have people dying in these facilities, and we're doing nothing. It is disgusting. It really is. These facilities are horrid, yet we can't do jack shit. We're giving ICE so much money, yet we can't help the facilities. We can't repair the facilities. We can't provide better things for the inmates in those facilities. I mean, that's gross. It really is. It's no different than the internment camps in Germany. It's no different than the Japanese camps in the United States from World War II. It's no different from any really prisoner of war camp from anywhere. It's disgusting. It really is. Anyways, moving on into our other news segment today, the UN nuclear chief says Iran could start enriching uranium for bombs within months. The UN's head nuclear watchdog has said Iran has the capacity to enrich uranium for a bomb in the matter of months. Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, said the U.S. had caused severe damage but did not totally destroy the facilities. He said Iran possessed the industrial and technological capabilities, so if they wish, they will be able to start doing this again, referring to Iranian nuclear enrichment. It's months away. Last time I checked, it was weeks away. Before that, it was days away, but it never happens. Yes, they can enrich uranium, and yes, they could probably use it to make a bomb, but it hasn't happened, and I don't think it ever will. Yet every day, there's another reason to strike Iran. Yet every day, it's gonna happen, and it doesn't happen. Interesting, isn't it? Really interesting. Anyways, moving into our final news topic for the evening, multiple firefighters have unfortunately been shot at and died in Idaho. Two firefighters have been fatally shot and others have been injured while responding to a brush fire in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Officers were unaware of the amount of active shooters, but some believe it may have been a setup. The fire, which began around a half an acre in size, was burning as police worked to escalate the shooting. County Sheriff Robert Norris believes this is likely going to be a multi-day operation. Attacking firefighters is a crazy thing to do. Not only are they unarmed, but they make sure to work to make sure that lives are saved. I have my suspicions on the attack. We don't know much information, so I don't want to say anything wrong, so I won't. But, at the end of the day, my condolences to the firefighters and their families, and I wish a speedy recovery to anyone harmed in this situation. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you are on YouTube, please consider subscribing, dropping a like, dropping a comment down below. Let me know your takes on all of the news from today. If you're on Substack, please consider pledging your support. All funds go to me. I'm going to college soon, as we know, and all funds will help me pay for, food, clothing, water, or you don't got to pay for water. I always say that, but, you get the gist. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'm going to dip out because it's really hot, but I hope you all enjoyed.